Oh, this is Chuck, and welcome to the How to Defeat Dudes video blog. So not too long ago, I was working on a job outside of Tokyo in a very natural kind of area. I was just having a great time, enjoying it, but unfortunately during the job, I was running full tilt, stepped on a very uneven piece of ground, felt my leg lock mid-stride, something goes pop in the back of my knee, and then I go tumble, 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 tumble. Needless to say, thanks to my regular exercise and stretching routine that all y'all have watched by now, right? My legs are pretty strong and flexible, so nothing tore completely, but unfortunately there was a little bit of damage to the ligaments in the back. Which means that for the first time since I was a little kid, Chuck his own crutches. Being the martial arts obsessed person that I am, however, for me, that meant nothing more than having the chance to learn how to fight with these things. So today, that's what we gonna learn. How to fight on crutches. Let's take a look. Now, much to the surprise of some, these things do actually have their relative advantages. For one, as you can see, they're quite long, which means you can use them in the same way that you'd use kicks, meaning to keep your opponents at distance and to keep them at bay so they can't get inside your range to hit you. Either by planting on one and then using swing motions like this, across the head to the legs, or lifting up and then thrusting forward like that. Now one of the disadvantages, although it's actually an advantage for walking, is the fact that they're also very, very lightweight. They're way less heavy than your legs are, which means you're not going to hit someone as hard as these as you could potentially with your legs. Also, the other disadvantage is that you actually need them for your balance, which means you can't use both of them at once, at least not very easily. Also, if you're wearing really baggy clothes, they can also get caught up in your clothes like this if you're taking it out to try and block like this, or if you're lifting it up to try and strike this way. Now, another advantage of these things is that some of them actually have butterfly screws in here. At least the ones that I had when I was a kid did. Now, this being Japan, they're always really, really obsessed with safety and new technology. So this pair doesn't actually have those anymore. They have these little things you can push in to adjust the heights. So obviously that's great for actually using the crutches to walk with, but not as good for fighting with them. If you do, however, have the old school pair with the butterfly screws, those would make great striking surfaces because that's just basic physics. Same amount of energy applied to a smaller striking area means a harder hit. Just like how in a lot of the traditional martial arts, you're taught to strike only with these two knuckles instead of with the whole fist. Exact same idea. Now again, seeing as how they tend to get caught up in your clothes, I don't exactly emphasize the idea of trying to block with these things. Beyond that, another problem with that is that anytime you're actually blocking, you're still absorbing force, and again, you need these things for balance. So even if you could get it out of your armpit quickly enough and get it up like this, you're still going to be taking a hit, and chances are you're still going to go down. And if you're on these things, then getting back up is going to be way harder. As such, what I emphasize instead is simply evading. Evading and then creating distance and keeping them far away. Let us explore some simple punch evasions, shall we? Straight punches can be avoided in more or less the same way you do it on your feet, with a simple parry. Notice how I actually don't have to move very much, just enough to get my head out of the way and let the punch go by. If you'll notice, 90% of this twisting is done with the upper body, so you don't have to worry about putting stress on your healthy or your injured leg. Although you'll have to react quickly in order to make it work, haymaker-style punches can also be avoided with a simple backstep. When you see the punch, just push back sharply with the crutches and then use your good leg to catch you. If you'll notice, the distance that I stepped back with my good leg is how much distance from the original point where the punch was thrown to where my head is now. From there, you can strike or push to the knee, or apply pressure at his hip at his center of gravity to push him off balance. You can also go for high strikes as well, but personally I think that takes too long and it telegraphs way too much. After parrying the straight punches, you can use the close distance to go for strikes to the outside of the knees, or the groin. Now, even though you can hit high with these things, I think you're way better off just going for the legs. Because in order to hit high, you're going to have to swing it, which means it's going to telegraph and they're going to see it. Which means they might potentially grab it and take it from you. Not good. That is, unless you go for a thrust, but then again, that begets the problem of it getting caught up in your armpits if you're wearing something baggy. Now, in terms of kicking, you can actually kick on these things. Either with a front kick like this, or a back kick like this. And you can do that, but I do think you're much better off just using your good leg to stand on and then hitting with the crutches themselves. Quite frankly, I think that applies to regular fighting as well, because you're always better off hitting somebody with something else besides your limbs. Because if they take it, then at least you've still got your limbs, right? And they don't have a hold of you. Once someone actually grabs you, now that's a whole different dynamic. So unfortunately, guys, as much as I would love to keep these things and play with them a little bit longer so I could figure out more stuff, unfortunately, by the time I upload this video, I'm probably going to be back on my feet, which means I have to give them back to the hospital. Honestly though, guys, the reason that I actually wanted to make this vid was simply to show that no matter what, there's always a way to fight back. You don't ever have to be the victim. Even when you're on crutches, there's still stuff you can do. And remember, the most important thing is always that you simply do something. Don't give up, fight back. If you do something, then you're always better off than if you do nothing. Okay, so this is Chuck, that's all for today, and hope to see you next time. Yosh!